Greetings, Phil McCordic here, and welcome to a very special video just for parents. Okay, it's not just for parents, kids can totally watch too, but it might get a little boring for you kids out there. So go get your parents and get them to watch this video, and if you want more fun science experiments, just skip ahead to the next video, because I want to talk to the parents for a second here, because this relates to some of the videos I've been doing recently about debunking videos that you see on YouTube or TikTok about science experiments that aren't science experiments. They're magic tricks. This is about truth and facts on the internet, about what's real and what's not real. And normally, I would not touch this with a 10-foot pole because it's way above my level and my niche on the internet about, you know, real news and fake news and conspiracy theories and all that kind of stuff. But it is now entered my world, and that means it's entered your children's world, because I like to educate kids about science. And it's damaging for kids to see these videos and believe they're science, because one of the main fundamental principles of the scientific method is reproducibility. You're supposed to be able to take that experiment that you saw online or on TV and do it yourself at home and get the same results, because that is science. And when it's fake, they're going to get it all together. These kids are going to get really excited about doing the thing, and then they're going to do it and nothing's going to happen. And that erodes faith in science. It doesn't completely get rid of it, but little by little, these kind of things have an effect. And that makes me, I don't want to say angry, I'm going to say negatively passionate about that, because it should not happen, and it should not happen in what are supposed to be safe places for kids. And here's one of the worst culprits. It's a channel with way more views than me, a giant, massive channel, millions of views. And look at this montage of science experiments. It's really awesome. And here's this fork video that I've debunked in another video, and that's not real science. That's a magic trick. See, there's a cut where the fork goes through the water, and on the other side of the water, the fork is bent. And it's frustrating to me that they call that science, and it's got millions of views. In fact, it's one of the first things you get when you enter kids' science experiments, and they've mixed it in with a bunch of actual science experiments. So now, unless you know science really well, you don't know what's real and what's fake. Knowing what's real on the internet is really important, and I very strongly believe that we need to create a world where kids are equipped to discover what's true and what's not true on their own, and to have some rules that will help them navigate the growing amount of fake stuff out there and finding out what is actually true. And that's very difficult to do, and it's going to get even harder. Here's where I'd like to start. People trust. People trust with their heart. That's hardwired into us since we were cavemen, that you trust. And you trust with your emotions, and I think that's really good and really worthwhile for things in real life. You should trust people in real life that you know physically, that you can touch. Then you get online. And if it's online, you can't trust with your heart anymore. You have to trust with your head. You have to be able to take your emotions out of it and learn if this is a place where you should get your information from. Because there's a saying, or there's a rule that certain groups of people on the internet have said, and it seems on the surface like a really good rule, which is don't trust anything you see. Don't trust the news. You never know. And it really does sound like a very good thing to say, because you shouldn't just automatically believe everything you see. But the downside to that is then you don't trust anything, which leads to just as much chaos as trusting everything. And then what people do is they trust whatever they want to trust, and that leads to even more chaos. What you need to do is trust people that you can trust and figure out who those people are. And so let's use me for an example. I teach kids about science. So what I think we should do is encourage your kids to go through and find out if they can trust, say, me, or another channel, or another thing that they're interested in. Should we trust the information coming from this source? Now, what you would do if it was me is say, now, can Phil teach us about science? Let's go and take one of his science experiments on Science Max, and let's go look it up. Let's go see if that science is real science. So you do an experiment, and I say, here's the science behind it, and go to another place and see, is there a university professor talking about the same science and doing that experiment? Can you do the experiment at home? with the same materials? Do you get the same results? And after you do that with your kid, and your kid can go, you know what, I believe that, yes, this is a good place. This seems to be reliable information. And I'm not saying it's just me. It could be anywhere. Then you could say, this is something that we can trust with our minds, not with our hearts. And that's one of the ways we can get them there. It also helps teach them how to Google the facts for themselves, because when you see a random TikTok video, you don't know if you should trust it or not, but you need to go and back it up and look up for other YouTube sites where they say, either debunk it or do the experiment as well and talk about the science. I would say, and I've kind of said this before, that any site that teaches your kid science but doesn't actually explain any of the science, it's just the hands going through the motions, I'd say disregard all of those sites. Not because they get all of the views and I don't, but those people aren't really invested in teaching science. They're just invested in doing something fun that looks great on camera, which you got to do something fun that looks great on camera. I totally get that. But myself and my science friends, who I like to call them, are the people out there online who are not only doing the experiment, but then breaking it down and talking about the scientific principles behind them. And those are these science experiments I think we should steer our kids towards, and we should steer them towards those places on purpose and say, this is why I don't like that, and this is why I do like that. What's your opinion of that? And see if we can get them to have that critical thinking map to get them to the right place. Because starting them here and teaching those skills is going to be very important, because this is just science videos, maybe you say it's not really all that big a deal, but it's going to get worse. And unfortunately, there's no way to stop it. The internet's going to be the internet, and it's going to be more disinformation and more craziness. And, I don't know if you know about deepfake videos, but they're coming, and they're in such a way that anybody could be on camera doing a thing that didn't actually happen. And it's going to be a place where you're not even going to be able to tell if that's real footage or not. And we're going to have to be able to navigate those waters. And as your kids grow up, they're going to have to be the ones to be able to figure out what is real and what isn't. And being able to trust the source that place comes from is one of the first steps. I think we can agree on that is a good place to start them. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking now. I hope that this doesn't turn you off everything that I'm doing, talking about such a heavy political idea. But please, if you do have something to add to this conversation, please reach out to me on Facebook. It will be linked below, or on Twitter, or whatever you want. And support me on Patreon if you like it. In the meantime, I will see you later.